So welcome again to Hear Me Now from Charlotte Mecklenburg Library in collaboration with the Roll Up Charlotte. And I'd like to introduce our presenter, Kia Moore. Kia is the founder of the Charlotte-based social venture Hip Hop Orchestrated and is the creative director of the mentorship-focused Charlotte-based nonprofit Hack and Hustle Social Entrepreneurship Academy. She holds a BA in Communication Studies with a certificate in International Public Relations and a minor in journalism from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. And we are absolutely delighted to have you here today. So I will turn it over to Kia now. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Just so glad that you are here. My name is Kia Moore, and I'm a freelance writer who focuses on feature style writing. So that's what I learned while I was in school, and I have several pieces in local publications. And for the Hear Me Now project, we're going to be using the skills that I learned from journalistic writing to craft impactful letters. This is part one of the series. This is a 3-part series. We will have additional dates of speaking about this subject matter November 30th, Monday, November 30th, and Monday, December 28th from 3 to 4 p.m. What you can expect is to learn the steps that it takes to use the power of words to affect change in using letter writing. This part, we're going to touch on the first few steps to start the letter writing process. We're going to do the understanding the power of words, identifying the issue that you want to write about, and identifying the audience. So the Hear Me Now project is a part of a residency of the Roll Up. I'm going to pass it along to the founder of the Roll Up, Jessica Moss, for her to give you some more insight about this residency and what they do in the Charlotte community.
Thanks, Kia. And I'll just echo your sentiment. It is so nice to be in community with you all today. Thank you for joining us this kind of dreary I am Saturday, or what day is it? Friday, Saturday? This is where I am on my Zoom life these days. It's great to see you all. As Kia mentioned, I'm the founder and director of a program called the Roll Up CLT. This is a program that supports Black contemporary artists with time, space, and money to be able to support whatever their craft is. Kia is our resident for 2020, and we are so excited and honored to be able to support her work during this time. You can follow us on Instagram at the Roll Up CLT. You can also find us online at my website, jessieplain.com. And I look forward to engaging with you all about this program after and on the next 2 events, as Kia just pointed to. So thank you so much for being here with us today. And Kia, I'll kick it back to you.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica. So with this letter writing project, you're going to be reaching out to people in the government and key decision makers to get your voice heard about issues impacting your community. And to help us navigate that, understanding who to reach out to in the government and the civic space, we reached out to a civic expert, which is Christine Edwards, and she will be sharing her knowledge about how to navigate civic issues. And I want to pass it along to Christine for her to introduce herself, to share a little bit about what she does, and give us some insight about Amplify Charlotte.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to do my best to bring y'all some energy this afternoon. What a week it has been. Oh my goodness, but we made it. We made it to Friday, and here we are. Thank you, Kia, so much. Thank you, Jessica, for inviting me on to add my perspective into your program. I'm really excited that this is just the beginning, and I'm excited for your future programming as well. Thank you to Pam at the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library for being our technical and venue coordinator this afternoon. I appreciate, all of the hospitality that you all have given us already in this digital space. So we are going to just jump right in. I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about myself, and then Pam, if you could tee up the presentations while I'm doing that, that would be great. So I'm Christine Edwards, and I'm the founder of Amplify Consulting, and we work under the brand Amplify Charlotte to deliver community engagement and civic engagement workshops throughout the state of North Carolina. We were founded in 2018 through a Knight Foundation grant. That's also how I met Kia to begin with, was through doing work with the Knight Foundation. I cannot speak more highly of the Knight Foundation. They've been pretty instrumental in my progress in terms of being a civic innovator. My professional background is with local government. I earned my Master of Public Administration in 2013 from UNC Charlotte. I grew up here in Charlotte, went to Harding University High School, go Rams, okay? And, so I have a really, really deep history here in Charlotte and North Carolina. I've worked for the city government, I've worked for county government, I've worked for nonprofit organizations and for universities here in North Carolina. So that's sort of my professional background. And so what I'm going to talk to y'all about today is, Kia has the know-how when it comes to writing and expressing your voice. But what I would bring today is how to figure out who to write to, right? And how to match those topics with making sure you're writing to the right person or the right organizations. And we're specifically going to be talking about the City of Charlotte and City Council today. All right.
Christine, if we can do it where I present my piece a little bit earlier, because I'm going to lead it into you and for you to take over. I just wanted people to get to know a little bit about you before we got started.
Gotcha. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, if I can get the slide again. Welcome to Hear Me Now. We are going to get into the presentation. So we all know that words have power, but harnessing that power can be a challenge. One of the things that I've learned when it comes to writing is knowing how we use words can help us make them become more effective and to harness that power that we're trying to relay through the words that we use. Through the words we often use, there are one of four things that we're trying to do. We're trying to convey emotion, to share our feelings, and to create feelings within other people. We are sharing our opinions to get our perspective out into the world. We're trying to persuade others to get people to believe what we believe, and we are disseminating facts where we're just trying to educate other people. When we are doing our letter writing, we are doing one of these four things. And when it comes to letter writing, sometimes we can use one of those approaches for the entire letter. So it could be a persuasive letter, it could be an opinion-based letter. And sometimes we can use a mix of all of these approaches to get our point across. It all depends on how you need to lay out your argument. But knowing these four approaches when it comes to the words that we use is very helpful in constructing not only letters, but articles and things of that nature. With the style of letter writing we're focused on in Hear Me Now, we want our words to change the perspective of others. So we're focused on persuading others, moving them toward our way of thinking. But we might have to use emotion, opinion, or fact to pull people toward our perspective. So when we are doing that, we're going to take a look at an example of somebody that used these approaches and when it came to changing political perspective. So that we're going to explore orator Frederick Douglass. He used words to change the perspective of white Northerners about slavery and taking on a pro-abolitionist stance in his speech, "What to the Slave is the 4th of July." In this Independence Day oration, Douglass sought to persuade people to embrace what was considered at the time in 1852 an extreme position, was to be abolitionist, to say slavery shouldn't exist. So he went into the room of 500 to 600 people, and when they heard Douglass's speech, they were generally sympathetic to what it is he had to say. The newspaper noted that when he sat down, there was a universal applause. He was able to persuade people to this new opinion. Many people, when they heard the speech, they were sympathetic, but also they transposed the speech. They put the speech in the newspaper. So some people at that point might not have been as enthusiastic about it, because Northerners were, some of them were anti-slavery, where they saw that slavery was an issue, but totally abolishing it wasn't the stance that they were taking. So through his argument, Douglas was able to help bring key points as to why pro-abolitionist stance was the better path for America. So we're going to put a link in the chat to the speech. We're only going to read paragraph 68 and 69, and we're going to explore some of the approaches that he used in his writing and how we could use that in what we want to do for our letter writing. So if you could turn off your camera and head toward reading the speech, and once everybody is done back on camera, we'll know that we're ready to talk about it. Okay. Let's go into discussing a little bit about what we read. So I would love to hear from our attendees what their takeaways were from the reading.
I'll share. So I was thinking that when I was reading it, I think what he was trying to get across was that they are not anywhere. So the slave, for example, it was not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution, not in the preamble or in the body. And so it's kind of like he felt invisible.
Okay. That is a good interpretation of not seeing slavery talked about anywhere in the Constitution. It really does put that into the question. Does anybody else have an opinion about what they read?
I felt it was that the institution, sorry, I felt, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh yeah, I felt that the institution of slavery was not accepted as something that would be natural in the life of the time that Douglas lived, or any time. It's not a integral part of the Constitution. It doesn't give them rights to hold slaves. It was not given in the Constitution. That's what I felt he was trying to reiterate.
You all really picked up on what he was trying to convey to his audience. So Douglas really put into question how the Constitution can be interpreted. And through his questioning the document, he asked the audience the question, is slavery even a part of the Constitution? So he uses that reverence that people have for the Constitution to make his point. He uses emotion. Americans respect the document. However, the document can be interpreted, a question to how it's interpreted in several ways, especially the language around slavery in the document can be debated. So that means slavery in America existing should be up for debate. So knowing that approach of taking emotion and a little bit of fact, putting that together in his argument really put into question, is slavery something that should be, like you said, an institution in America? In this example, power of words to change, so we can see that knowing the issue and laying out the argument clearly using emotional qualities can change heart and minds. So For an average citizen, a speech like that of Douglas might not be necessary, but the act of putting together a powerful letter addressing the appropriate audience can change the perspective of individuals and bring change to the community. So let's move on to the next. Okay, so it's key in knowing the issue that you want to talk about. When it comes to writing, focusing on reaching out to people in roles that can impact the community, writing to influence their perspective is going to be your objective. So you're going to be working to persuade them. So you might take on complex issues like affordable housing or even mundane issues like fixing potholes in your neighborhood. It just depends on how you feel your community, what you feel your community needs, and then catching the ear of those people in those key departments to make the change happen. So before you address your letter to anyone, knowing the issue that you want to cover is key. So one of the ways, we're going to go over 3 of the ways that you can figure out which issue you want to cover. One is looking at the news cycle, observing the news cycle and seeing issues that are constantly affecting your community, looking in the newspaper, looking on the news stations. If you're seeing things about your community constantly come up, looking at city government or county government conversations that are aired on TV or in the newspaper can give you an idea of, this is an issue that my community is dealing with. This is something that needs to be addressed by some of these key decision makers, and you can pull from that. Another approach is, it might be out in the public, but it's something that's known within your community. So if you're constantly having a conversation about an issue with your neighbors, that can be one of the things that you can say, hey, this is an issue in my community. It needs to be known by people that are coming in to help make change happen in my community. And then there's the focus where it might not be known to as many people, it's known just to you, but you've taken notice of an issue in your community and you're passionate about wanting to see that change happen. So taking that passion and putting it into a letter form to get that change to happen in your community is another approach that you want to go. So once you have identified the issue that you want to take on, you now have to figure out who to address this letter to. Often the issue is going to determine the audience that you're writing your persuasive letter for, because the issues that you have within your community coincide to different departments in the government and things of that nature. So knowing that issue and get into the audience. So when it comes to the letter writing audience, key decision makers, you tend to have a small audience that you're trying to reach. Sometimes it can be an audience of one. Sometimes it can be an audience that goes through a chain of command. So it starts with a secretary and then it goes up to the next person in the chain of command to finally get into your primary target. So the letter is going through several different people. So knowing how to create an argument that is going to persuade several people within the same department can be an approach that you have to take. So understanding your audience allows you to create stronger arguments and support the change that you're proposing in your letter. So knowing your audience means that you will need to investigate what is of interest to them and then align that to the changes that you want to see happen in your community. So you get to know some of the projects that the key decision makers are working on, and then you structure your argument to tie it to something that's already of interest to them. So like they might be working on a budget, and you take notice of one of the budget line items. So say you have an issue with a park that's parks and recreation that's going on in your community. Maybe people aren't cleaning up the park as often as they should be. Knowing that is a budget item in and what they're working on, you can tie that you're putting money into parks and recs. We want to utilize a park in our community. We're not seeing it being as clean and used as often as it could be. This is an issue that I take with it. Let's have a conversation about that. So that's how you can tie it in. So knowing how to navigate and identify these key decision makers takes a lot of effort. And to explore that, we have Christine Edwards, who's going to take us through knowing who to contact and how to get something in front of them. So I'm going to pass it along to her for her to take over and give us those tips and appropriate letter writing.
Great, thank you. All right, so as Kia said, I'm going to talk about how to match up your topic with the person or group in order to know who to write to. And I also have some templates that I'm going to be sharing with you all as well, and some information about specific members of the Charlotte City Council. So we can go ahead to the next slide. All right, so Civics 101 is a workshop that I typically do for people who are interested in learning how to advocate for themselves on a local level. It's about building capacity for change, teaching these principles of community engagement, learning where and how to find civic resources, and how to discover data gathering techniques to facilitate that change. A lot of folks don't know that data is publicly available. So if you want information about voting data, if you want information about, for example, home values, sometimes even social service data is actually publicly available. And so Civics 101, it instructs you on how to get access to that data. We'll go to the next slide. All right, so Amplify Charlotte is built on this philosophy of 3 principles: voice, representation, and change. So voice is all about making your voice heard in front of city and county representatives. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Representation is about serving on a local council appointed board or committee, or it's also about voting, right? And making sure that your representatives look like you and they are representative of the communities that they do serve. And then change is about, And then change is about starting your own community project, whether it be volunteering or mentoring or kicking off a community project where you can actually get access to grant funding, you know, if you're able to articulate your community project too. All right, and the reason that local government matters is because there's a phrase, cities are the laboratories for democracy. So a lot of times we think about how decisions are being made at the national level, and we're voting in presidential elections because a lot of decisions can be made at the national level. But at the same time, local and state government matters so much because the state government handles issues such as healthcare, education, voting, our utilities, our police and community safety, the environment, transportation, and just overall quality of life. I mean, the national government handles things like Supreme Court cases and big, huge policy changes that can make an impact nationwide. However, your day-to-day, whether you're getting access to in-school counseling services, whether you're getting access to early voting, right? Those decisions are being made at the state and local level. And so that's why local government matters. And the next slide you'll see, it is the actual phrase, cities are the laboratories for democracy. And we're seeing that now more than ever because we are in the age of COVID and in the age of our current administration. What we have seen is that because of the interesting response that we've seen from the national government, it has actually pushed the focus now to states. And now states are having to come up with their own individual responses to a lot of things that are happening. We'll go to the next slide. All right. And so with that said, I kind of want to do some trivia with you all. If you will, participate with me, I would love for you all to participate and kind of go along with it. And the way that you can do that is either in the chat, or if you would like, you can unmute yourself and just kind of yell out the answer. Now, if you've done this activity with me before, you can still participate, but let some folks get a stab at it. So this is city county trivia, right? And so each answer is either going to be city or county. So the first one is the police are a service of, I think I heard it.
City.
City. That's correct. That's correct. And I see an answer in the chat. So, so please do, if you know the answer, you can yell it out or you can put it in the chat. The police, when I say police, I'm talking about the CMPD. That is actually a service of the city of Charlotte. Now, the sheriff is under the jurisdiction of, I think you had it, Deborah.
County.
That's correct, the county. So, that's correct. So the city handles the CMPD, and then Mecklenburg County handles the sheriff's office. And I'll get into the difference between those two in a moment. Number 3, who do you call to complain about a garbage truck skipping your street? City or county?
City.
City, that's correct. That's correct. The city handles garbage collection, and Mecklenburg County handles landfill, recycling, and disposal. Okay, so it's a shared service. The city does the collections, and the county does the disposal. All right, number 4. Who do you call to report a broken jungle gym at a public park?
County, I would think.
That is correct. It's the county. So this is different because Charlotte is really unique. In some larger cities, the cities actually handle park and recreation.
Yeah.
Here in Mecklenburg County, it's actually Mecklenburg County handles all park and recreation. And I think the reason that they do that is because the county typically handles all environmental issues. And so the parks is like a land use / environmental issue. So the answer to that, if it's a public park, then it's usually Mecklenburg County. But if it's a private park, like if it's attached to like some subdevelopment or something, then that's going to be a private developer. You're going to have to talk to whoever owns that park. But if it's a public park, it's going to be Mecklenburg County. All right, number 5, you believe that there should be a new public library in your neighborhood. Who do you call? Is this a trick question?
I would think the city. I would think the city.
You would say city. Okay. Well, the answer is Mecklenburg County. And this is kind of a trick question because Mecklenburg County handles, and when I say handle, I mean that they facilitate the development of the library through financial support. And Mecklenburg County Library, for example, employees are county employees. So Mecklenburg County handles all of the sort of planning for future libraries, and they also handle the operations of the library. But you also have, the library is also what they call an enterprise fund, where they can actually charge fees. And they also have a nonprofit entity that helps to raise money to sustain the library as well. So it's kind of a partnership between Mecklenburg County and the nonprofit foundations. All right. But at the end of the day, when it comes to like future planning, that's a Mecklenburg County operation. All right. This last one, Charlotte's airport is one of the busiest airports in the world. Who operates it? Did you say both? So the answer here is going to be city. Okay, and so in this next slide, I'm going to talk about the difference between the two. But, with the airport, because the airport is a transportation hub, that is going to be a City of Charlotte function. And the airport is one of the main economic drivers for our region. It's bringing in business and, you know, helping people get around the country and really get around the world. And so that actually is a city department. A lot of folks don't know that. And actually a few years ago, the city of Raleigh tried to take away the airport from Charlotte because they thought it should be more of a regional authority. I see in the chat there's a question, are these distinctions unique to Charlotte? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Some other cities, some larger cities, for example, I know a lot of folks are from the Northeast, like Ohio and New Jersey and New York. What you'll see in larger cities like that is you'll see airport authorities.
Yeah.
You'll see independent utility authorities.
Yeah.
And you'll also see like independent authorities. But here in Charlotte and Mecklenburg County, we have what's called a council manager form of government. And that means that there is a city manager and there's a county manager that runs the day-to-day operation. And we have what's called a weak mayor system, okay? And so when you have a strong mayor system, that means that the elected officials have way more power and authority to do the day-to-day operation. And you also have elected people who handle airport authority, utility authority, parks, land use authorities. These people are like appointed and elected, whereas here in Charlotte, North Carolina, they're hired. It's like a professional, it's like you're running a business pretty much. Okay, so basically on the left side of the screen, you'll see City of Charlotte, and on the right side of the screen, you'll see Mecklenburg County. The way that I best understand this is think about a computer. So your city is your hardware and the county is the software, okay? So the city is things that you can see, touch, and feel, like transportation, streets, public safety, like the police and fire, your water services, your planning department, like your crosswalks, housing and neighborhoods. So our housing department, that is going to be a city service, okay? And then Mecklenburg County is truly the software. Those are things that you can't really see, but you need it in order to run the community. And Mecklenburg County, like all counties in the state of North Carolina, act at the authority of the state. It's kind of a Southern thing, you know? And so it's basically, the county is state mandated to do health and human services. So that's why you see things like public education, college funding, land use, park and rec, property tax collection, veteran services, child support services, social services. All of these things are mandated by the state government, okay? And one quick note about the sheriff's office. So CMPD does patrol. They patrol and they do criminal, they do response, right? So they respond to incidents and they do patrolling and community policing. However, the sheriff's office is responsible for the jails and maintaining safety of people who are then arrested and then are inside of the system. So they maintain the jails and the courthouses. Okay. All right. And so here's a couple of civic academies. If you guys are more interested in learning more about city-county leadership, I encourage you to look into these 3 different academies. The first one is the Civic Leadership Academy that's hosted by the City of Charlotte. The second one is Civics 101, hosted by the League of Women Voters. And the third one is called Comunidad de Colectiva, and it is hosted by, I think, I don't know the name of the organization, but I know that this is a civic academy for Spanish-speaking people. And if you look this up for the City of Charlotte, I'm sure you can find out more about it. All right, so we're going to get into the Civic Handbook. How am I doing on time? Okay, I'm going to try to speed up a little bit. So for the Civic Handbook, if we can open up the handbook and I'll show you guys what the template looks like in terms of how to determine what to write. And I think in the handbook is broken down in those 3 pillars: the voice, representation, and change. And so on that first pillar, it's all about like how to actually do a public comment. So if you are doing a public comment, and we'll go to page 3. Yeah, no, here we go. Making a public comment. So this is really if you want to speak in person or digitally, virtually. This would be an example of what you would put together. You want to include your name, the neighborhood you live in, the city you live in. And you're going to say, the purpose of my presentation today is blank. So you want to be clear about why you're coming to them. You know, and if the issue is a for or against, you say, the reason I'm for this issue is because blank, and this is important to me because. So this is just a simple template that you can use. And then the example here says, my name is Jerome Artie. I reside in the Sunny Grove neighborhood in Charlotte. The purpose of my presentation is to support the council's action to ban gas-powered leaf blowers within the city limits. I am opposed to the use of these leaf blowers because they cause an environmental hazard and when they idle in my neighborhood and they contribute to pollution. I urge you to move forward with your action to ban these tools. And so that's an example you can use. And the next example is if you are doing this over email. Oh, we'll go to the next page. So if you're doing this over email and you're not necessarily writing to them, you're not speaking out in person, you can do a couple of different things. You could put that same sort of template in an email format, or if you're actually interested in applying to a board, right? Here is an example of how you would do that. There are some key elements that you want to include. You want to include your name. You want to make sure you're speaking to the right city council person here. You want to include your name, your neighborhood, and you're saying what board you are applying for. You want to give a good reason that you're applying for the board, whether you have experience and background for that board. And then you want to talk about why you would be an asset to the board. And this is a great way to sort of advocate for yourself for whatever board or committee that you choose. And I'm going to send this out to y'all. If you have questions about it that we can get to, go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll make sure we get to those. So if you go back to the other presentation, I'll talk about how these council committees are broken down. Awesome, okay. Yeah, sorry, I took a little bit more time on the city county stuff. I really love that stuff. Okay, so this is how the committees are broken down. The city of Charlotte is broken down into 6 different focus areas. And what they do is they assign council members to each of the committees. And it's the same thing on the county side. I don't think we have time to go through the Mecklenburg County side, but I wanted to give y'all that baseline of the city takes care of really your hardware, things that you can see, touch, and feel, and then the county takes care of your social services, public health, and education. So these are the 6 committees that are broken down. And I would love to hear, does anybody in the audience have an example of something that they care deeply about?
Affordable housing.
Okay, affordable housing. So you are going to go to the Great Neighborhoods Committee. If you could scroll down to the Great Neighborhoods Committee. All right. So as you can see, you care deeply about affordable housing. You're going to go to charlottenc.gov, and I'm sorry, I should have put that on this slide. I'm gonna actually put it in the chat. charlottenc.gov, and you can go to a tab called City Government. And I pulled this off of the website. This committee is in charge of reviewing and recommending policies related to comprehensive initiatives designed to create affordable housing and provide opportunities that align with great neighborhoods. Now, you can also look at who's on this committee. And you can say, oh, well, that's my council member. That's the person that represents my neighborhood. And that's a plus, right? And so then you can reach out to them and say, hey, my name is Miss Gladys. I live in this neighborhood in your district, and I care about affordable housing because, you know, and so then you write your letter to them, but then you're also going to want to copy and paste that same letter to everybody on the committee. Okay, because these people are responsible for making sure Charlotte has great neighborhoods. And it's totally okay. It's totally okay to email them. They're public servants. It's their job to respond to us. Also on this website, you can see how often they meet, and you can go and kind of just be a fly on the wall during the committee meetings. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it, y'all. And then on the resource that I'm getting ready to send y'all after the event, I'm going to send everybody's, all of the city council members' emails and their phone numbers too. Make sure I do that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you want to scroll through the rest of the committees, yeah, budget and effectiveness, intergovernmental relations. What? Let's see who's on the Safe Communities Committee. Yeah, because I know this is kind of a hot topic now too, right? Mm-hmm. So this committee reviews and recommends policies to make neighborhoods safe, healthy, and inclusive, including police, fire protection, and the environment. So this committee is all about, really, they're actually looking at some of the police funding and allocating funding right now. So they're having some really interesting conversations going on. And as you can see, the chair, they have a chair, Larkin Eggleston, and then James Mitchell is the vice chair. So if you start to recognize, you know, some of these council members and say, oh, that's the council member that represents my neighborhood, you do have that kind of attachment there. And you can say, hey, I'm in your district. This is why I care about this issue. And I mean, normally they will respond back and say, this is what we've been doing. A lot of times elected officials like to say, look, we are doing this. We are out in the community. We're doing what we need to do. But if you write them back and say, well, what you're doing is not enough, you know, you can take the role of, you know, Frederick Douglass and say, look, I don't see myself reflected in the work that you're doing. And so you can kind of push them and hold them accountable. Do y'all have any questions? Do we have time?
Okay. Well, since there are no questions, we just want to thank Christine for sharing her insights with us and really giving us an in-depth look at how to approach who to approach when we do our letter writing. It was really insightful. I want to thank the library for hosting us and the technical behind the scenes work. We really appreciate that. And for the roll-up for helping to make this happen. We really want to encourage you to think about what you want to write for, what issues that you have in your community and what you want to write about to these council members in the future. Hear me now, we're going to go through the process of actually writing the letters together and getting that out to the council members. So this was just the introduction to get your mind going to thinking about, this is the issue that I have, who is it that I need to contact? So now you have those tools that'll be coming to you in your email, and you can start the foundation of the letter that you want to write. Again, thank you for joining us, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you. See you, Pam.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. Thank you so much to Kia and Christine and Jessica. This has been awesome. And please join us on November 30th and December 28th for the other parts of this program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless
Thank you all. Visit the link in the chat to download the full Civic toolkit.
I'll share that on the email going back out also. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Y'all have a good one.